Today I'm going to do a labor and delivery story. Basically my goal with this video is to kind of help moms who are pregnant or who have been pregnant, or even help dads or whoever's going to be helping a pregnant woman through labor and delivery. So yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. So I wanted to start out with the fact that I had a very normal pregnancy. I did not have any complications. The only complication that you could say, well, technically there's two complications. I have a thyroid problem, which can sometimes make pregnancy a little bit more difficult. It can make it harder to get pregnant. It could cause miscarriages and whatnot. So I had to have my thyroid monitored by an endocrinologist for my entire pregnancy. The second complication, I guess you could say, is that I tested positive for group B strep. When they tested for that, I think at 37 weeks, I tested positive for it, but that's very normal. It's just that I had to be hooked up to IVs during my labor. So yeah, like I said, I had a very normal pregnancy. I carried Isaac all the way to full term. I did have I was 39 weeks and 1 day when I went into labor, and then 39 weeks and 2 days when I had him. I was due on February 28th and I had him on February 23rd. I really wanted to go natural, as in with no medications, nothing, no interventions, no Pitocin, no C-section. I wanted all natural, everything fine. And I wholeheartedly believed I can do it, which I know that anybody can. So I took some hypnobirthing classes thinking that, it would help, and it really did. I'll kind of touch on that in a little bit. But I was determined to go natural. I also had in my birth plan that if something were to happen, if there was an emergency, I'd be okay with getting a C-section, or if Pitocin was highly suggested, I would go ahead and choose to get on Pitocin. Yeah, I was doing those classes. I was doing the breathing techniques. There was audios that you had to listen to help with the hypnosis and stuff like that. It was super cool. I would suggest it to any pregnant woman, even if she doesn't want to go natural, because it really does help with the pain and kind of keeping you focused for your labor. Even if you plan to get the epidural, I would just take them because they're really cool. I was ready to go into labor. I was so pregnant and so miserable. I was so big. I mean, it was ridiculous. 39 weeks, I was just huge. I was all belly. My back hurt so bad. I had horrible sciatica. I could barely turn over in bed. Walking was a whole mess. I gotta go into labor. So I walked. I walked around our malls, our local malls, all day, every day almost. I bounced on my exercise ball. I ate spicy foods. I literally did everything you could think of to go into labor. I did not do castor oil because I had heard some really bad things about that, so I chose not to do the castor oil. And then on February 22nd, at about 7:30 in the morning, I woke up and I felt like I was leaking. And when I say leaking, kind of use your imagination, I felt like I was leaking amniotic fluid. I kind of reached down and I was like, that's weird. It kind of felt like I peed myself a little bit, and I didn't know I might have. My bladder was definitely being pushed on. I peed myself twice throughout my pregnancy, 2 or 3 times actually, full on peed myself. So I was okay, there's a possibility that it could be pee. So I texted my stepmom, who used to be a labor and delivery nurse, hey, I think I might be leaking. And she's like, well, if you think you're leaking amniotic fluid, I would definitely go in. I would go into labor and delivery since you have group B strep. If you have group B strep, you're more prone to infections and everything. So especially if your water breaks, you want to go, go into labor and delivery. So I woke Brandon up and I was like, we gotta go. I'm pretty sure I'm leaking. We go in and they take me into triage and everything. They hook me up to the monitors to see if I was having contractions. I had a couple contractions here and there, and I was so hoping that I was going into labor. I was like, please, I want to go into labor. We had our hospital bags with us and everything, and the nurse, there's these strips, I forget what they're called, but there's these strips that they kind of dip in the fluid if they can. They kind of get it, they touch it to you, and if fluid gets on it, it turns a different color. And she did that strip and it just wasn't working. Nothing was happening. It was basically nothing was going on down there. So she was like, okay, well, sometimes these like strips are a little wacky, so I'm gonna have the in-house doctor at the hospital that I went to, I'm gonna have him come in and he's gonna do what's called a Fern test. And he came in, he did that, and then he left. And then he came back and he checked me for like dilation and everything. And that I was at like 2.5 centimeters and I was like almost 100% effaced, which means thinned out. If you don't know like all those terms and everything, effaced is thinned out. So I was like pretty much all the way thinned out. I was dilated only like 2.5. The Fern test came back that it was not, like there was no amniotic fluid. But he was like, you guys are gonna be back here tonight, like no doubt, because you're just so ready for labor. So we're just like, okay, hopefully. And we went back to our house and we slept. Like we slept from, I think it was like 11 o'clock when we got back, like 11 a.m., like almost noon when we got back to our house. And we slept from then all the way until like probably like 5 o'clock. And I woke up and that I really wanted McDonald's. I was like, Brandon, can you please go get some McDonald's? And this was like probably like 7 o'clock at night is when I told him. So he's like, okay, fine. And he leaves. And within like, he didn't even like make it to McDonald's. And I think the McDonald's was like 5 minutes away from us. I stood up because I was like, oh my God, I'm 39 weeks and I forgot to take my like belly picture. And I'm standing in front of the mirror that I took it in, about to take it, and like, I just felt like this huge gush. I was like, oh my God, like that had to be my water breaking. Like there's no way that it's not. So it like literally, it feels like you're peeing yourself. And some women say they hear a pop or feel a pop or whatever. I don't think I felt any of that. Like I'm pretty sure I just felt like this huge like gush of water. So I went to the bathroom. I called my stepmom and I was like, hey, listen, I'm pretty sure my water broke. Like I'm pretty sure it actually did. And like this might be a little bit of TMI, but this is like mostly for other moms who, you know, might be going through it soon. She told me that when your water breaks, like look in the toilet or look wherever the water is, and if there's like white specks in it, that's usually the amniotic fluid. Like that's what it is. That means your water broke. And I looked and there were the white specks, but she was like, that's normal, like you're good, go to the hospital. So I called Brandon. I'm like, Brandon, like it actually happened this time. Like my water broke. We get to the hospital and they checked us in so fast. Like I hear a lot of women who, it's such a long drawn out process, and at our hospital, you go, sometimes they take you into the triage room, like it just depends. Like they didn't take me into triage. They were just like, well, she took me into triage to test to see if my water broke with one of those strips again. But she didn't have me hooked up to any monitors. Like she was like, if you think your water broke, I'm just gonna test you really quick. So I go into a bathroom and she literally just like tested the strip and she was like, yeah, your water broke. So she let me choose which room I wanted, and there was a room in particular that I wanted that had a shower and a bathtub. Like it had like all the rooms had a shower, but only some rooms had a tub, and the room was huge. And I was like, I'm pretty sure 314 has a tub, like I want a tub. And she's like, okay, let me just see if it's open, and it was open. So I go into my room, they hook me up, they tell me everything, you know, all that crazy stuff. There's like so much paperwork and so much like questions and just everything. And she was like, I have to ask your doctor if you're even able to use the tub when your water broke, if you have group B strep. And I was like, oh no, like I hope I can, because I'm trying to go natural and I know that using water and the tub can help a lot. And she came back in and said that my doctor said no, that you can't use the tub, but I was able to shower if I wanted to. So I like text my whole family. I'm like, hey guys, like my dad, he was like, is it go time? Like, I'm like, yes, come on, let's go. So at that time it was just Brandon and I, and then my dad and my stepmom were the first to show up. I kind of used my stepmom as like a birth coach in a way, because, you know, she was, you know, she had done this many times. And then my dad didn't originally plan on being in the room, and then Brandon's mom and stepmom and dad showed up, and his stepmom and mom were planning to be in the room, and that was fine with me. Anyways, I'm, you know, walking around, I'm doing great. My contractions on the monitor are like up in the 300s, like the number wise, that's like pretty high, and I think that it got all the way up to like 400 or 500, I'm not 100% sure, But I was like laughing, I was talking, I was walking, smiling, like people were taking pictures. I was just like, oh, this is nothing, like this is easy. Like every once in a while I'd have a really painful one, but I was doing totally fine. I'm like, this is easy. Like laying down hurt the worst, and I was walking, I would do laps around the labor and delivery floor. The nurse had told me that my doctor wanted me to be on Pitocin since my water broke. Because I think that once your water breaks, a lot of doctors only give you a 24-hour period, or not a 24-hour, like a 12-hour period of like, it's like 12 to 24 hours of like letting you go into labor and like do it naturally. And then they give you a cutoff to where they like will do a C-section. So I was like, I don't want Pitocin, but I don't want to have a C-section. And then my doctor, she had to be in another hospital, but I wasn't pushing by 6 a.m. She wouldn't be able to be present for the birth. And it would have to be the in-house doctor, who was the same doctor that we saw that morning. I was like, man, like I really want my doctor to be here. I want to listen to her and everything. And my labor was just going so slow. Like I wasn't progressing like at all, even though I was having these contractions that were definitely regular. They weren't as consistent as they would have liked them to be. And my dad was like, Stephanie, like you should just get the Pitocin. Like you can still go natural and it's still gonna be okay. Like, but I've just heard so many horror stories about Pitocin, like how bad it will hurt and like how it makes your labor so much more intense. So I was like, okay, like I just decided I'm gonna do the Pitocin, but I'm still gonna try to go natural. So they start me on the Pitocin. I don't remember exactly what time. I wanna say it was like around like 12 to 1 in the morning or something. And at first it wasn't too bad. Like when I would walk around the hallways, I'd stop more because it would hurt, or like I was like really bouncing on the ball because it hurt so bad. One thing that I like really helped me is I would like hang on Brandon, like I would hang on his shoulders like this and like rock back and forth. And like if I bounced on the ball, he would like rub my back for me. And then suddenly around like 4 or 5, I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I got up to try to go to the bathroom, and then like I got off the ball. Like the ball was really helping me, and I feel like if I just would have stayed on the exercise ball, like I would have been fine. But Brandon came with me since I was like in a lot of pain at this point. Like I was yelling, I was like, you know, it was just terrible. And so I went to the bathroom, and that's when it got bad. I called my stepmom in, and she was like trying to help me. She was like, do you want to get in the shower? And I don't know why, but I was like, no, like I don't want to shower, I want to lay down. Knowing in my mind that like laying down was just gonna make it worse and it wasn't going to help. So I lay down and I'm like gripping the bed, like my stepmom's trying to relax my hands, I'm like yelling, I'm cursing, and everyone's laughing because I'm cursing and like all this stuff. And Brandon was really trying to help, and so I had been on the Pitocin for like 6 hours at this point. And the nurse comes in and she's like, okay, I'm gonna check you really quick. You should be progressed since you're like, you know, you're in so much pain. I was getting to the point where I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do it. I was using the hypnobirthing, which did really help. Like, I had my audio on, I was getting into my zone. Like, it helped so much, like, relax me and everything. But I just, like, it came to a point where I was like, I can't do this. And my hypnobirthing instructor had told us that if you get to that point where you feel like you can't do it, that means you're close. So as I was saying that, Brandon kept on reminding me, like, that means you're close, you're able to do this, you can do it. So the nurse checked me, and I was at a 4. I didn't progress, like, barely any. Like, I was still at, like, progressed from a 2.5 to a 4 within 6 hours. Like, with the Pitocin. It was terrible. And Brandon said that when he heard her say it was at a 4, he was like, she's gonna get the epidural. And I just like looked at her and I was like, how soon can I get the epidural? And she's like, you can get it now if you want. And they put me on, I don't remember what it was called. Like, I usually can like remember this kind of stuff, but I really don't remember what it was called. But it was like the thing that they give you before the epidural that kind of like takes the edge off for you while you're waiting. They gave me that and it helped a lot. Like, if I could have just used that, like, I feel like I could have gotten through it, but I don't know if I was able to just use that. That anesthesiologist comes in and she's trying to do my epidural, and I have scoliosis, so I wasn't able to like bend the way she wanted me to. Like, you have to like bend like all the way over, and that's really hard to do when you have a big belly and everything. And she was like getting kind of annoyed with me because I couldn't bend the way like I wanted to, or she wanted me to, and I was having contractions like a minute apart at this point. Like they were strong and they were a minute apart, and she was like, you gotta bend over more, you gotta bend over, and like my nurse was like really trying to like comfort me. She was absolutely amazing, by the way, like literally like the best person in the whole world. Like I love my labor nurse, like she was so great. She was holding my hands through it and telling me it was gonna be okay, that I was doing great, like reassuring me, because you know nobody else is allowed in the room, so that's also really scary. It's like I have scoliosis, so that might be part of the reason I can't bend, and she's like, oh, that explains it. So she gives it to me, it like shoots down my leg, I feel it, and it got my left leg and not my right leg. My right leg was like not very numb, but my left leg was like completely couldn't feel anything. And so finally, like I feel good, I'm laying back in the bed and I'm like, okay, I get to take a nap, get to relax for a little bit, and I just like remember closing my eyes and I started shaking. Like I started shaking like crazy. And that either means that's part of the medication, but that's also part of just like natural labor. Like you start shaking when you're starting to get close. So I'm like trembling and everything, and I was like commenting on how I couldn't stop shaking. And so my nurse, she was like, you know, that's normal, you're okay, it's part of the medication, it's part of birth, like all that. She's like, I'm gonna check you one more time before I leave, so you can take a nap and you can rest, and I'll call your family back in. Mind you, this had only been about a span of 20 minutes since the time they started the epidural till now. She checked me. Remember, I was at a 4 in the, like before I got the epidural. She's like, I'm gonna call the head nurse in really quick, because like this is weird, like this can't be right. I'm like, what? And she goes, I'm kind of getting you at like a 7. So I like went from a 4 to a 7 in 20 minutes. I was like, what the heck? So the head nurse comes in and she texts me and she's like, no honey, you're at like a 9.5, like you're gonna be pushing very soon. I was like, what? Like I went from a 4 to like a 9.5 in 20 minutes. Like it was so fast. Like I progressed like so quickly, and I truly believe it was because my body was just able to relax, and I was just able to like my body was just able to let it happen. And so I got a little scared because I was like, oh my god, like the epidural like hasn't even really kicked in, but at the same time I was kind of happy about that. Like I was happy that I was going to still be able to feel my pushing, I was still feeling my contractions and everything. So the nurse calls in, you know, the rest of my family, and they were all like, what the heck, she's already like pushing. So Brandon comes in, he grabs my left leg, my stepmom grabs my right leg, and my dad was about to walk out, and I was like, no Dad, like I want you to stay. And so my dad stayed with me, and I held his hand. Like he stood by my stepmom, and I held his hand the whole time. And Brandon's mom and stepmom were also in there. And I started like the practice pushing, which that's real pushing. I started that at 6:30. I was doing good according to what the nurse said and according to what everybody was telling me, and I had a mirror, so I was able to see like if his head started popping out. And unfortunately my doctor was unable to come, so I had the in-house doctor, which he was great, by the way. Like I really liked him. And he came in, he's like, I told you guys you're gonna be back tonight. And so I could see, I was looking down and I was pushing, and I could feel literally everything, which was good. Like it was painful, but it was good. As I'm pushing, Brandon's counting for me, and then sometimes his mom would start counting for me, sometimes my stepmom would count for me. Everybody like kind of started crying and stuff and whatnot, but Brandon was mostly the one like counting for me, telling me like when to do it. And I was able to feel my contractions. I would be like, hey, I feel something, like I gotta start pushing. And the nurse would just tell me like, whenever you feel like you need to, just do it. I had to get an episiotomy, which kind of sucked, but it's okay. Like I would rather get that than tear. Then I felt his head come out, and I thought the doctor said he's quiet, but he was actually saying like it's quiet, like because everybody got quiet as soon as Isaac's head popped out. And I got scared, and like as soon as my next contraction like hit, I was like pushing hard. Like I was like, I gotta push like super hard. My stepmom was like, she was like, no, don't push so hard, push gently, because it was his body coming out. And so I was like, okay, gently. And he came out, and like the first thing I said was, is he okay? Because like for some reason I thought that he wasn't okay, like the way that the doctor like said like it's quiet. Like I got super scared. So Isaac was born at 7:03. I only pushed for 30 minutes, which I think is pretty good. I have a friend who only pushed for like 5 minutes, who like in 2 pushes their baby was out, but I would say 30 minutes is pretty good. And luckily I don't want to be like one of those moms also that's like, oh, my epidural didn't even work. It was, I pretty much had a natural labor, like, because I didn't. Like, I did get the epidural and it did help, but it didn't get a chance to fully kick in, which was so wonderful. Like, I was able to feel everything and it was great. You know, after that, Isaac was born and he was nice and healthy. He weighed 8 pounds, 11 ounces, and he was 20.5 inches long. He was a big baby. The doctor was even surprised because he thought that he was gonna be like 6 pounds by the way, like, he was feeling my belly before I had him. He was shocked, and Brandon was just like, he was bawling. He just was so excited and so like full of emotion when he saw him, and he got to obviously cut his cord and everything, and they immediately laid Isaac on top of me. It was just so surreal. Like, I was just crying like crazy, especially when I heard his first cry. Like, I just like burst into tears, and everyone in the room was bawling. Like, my dad's crying, my dad's like looking over trying to look at him, and I was like, just go around, and he finally did. He was just afraid to see anything. And it was just so weird feeling him on my chest, because like, I remember saying this feels so familiar. Like, and what I meant by that is that like, it felt like he did, like, in my belly. Like, it felt like he was moving the same way, he was doing the same things. Like, it just felt so crazy, and he was alert and awake. Like, a lot of people try to say that like when you get the epidural or Pitocin or anything, like, your baby's not alert, but he was definitely like awake. And the placenta, I didn't even really feel myself delivering that. Like, I was like in awe. Like, I felt like him tugging on like the cord, and then I felt it come out, and that's it. Brandon said it like came out in a ball and it like flattened, but like, I didn't see any of that. I didn't even look at it. But yeah, I was just in awe. It's like literally the most amazing experience in the whole world. So honestly, like, I know that it's painful, and I don't want to say that like that I wasn't in pain, because I was. Like, labor is hard, but it was also the most amazing experience in the whole world. Like, I loved it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, because like, I was in pain, but I loved it, and I was so excited to meet my son. So it's like, there's like no better feeling in the world, and afterwards you feel like you're a superhero. Like, you feel so like strong and so happy and so fulfilled, like, once you finally meet your baby. And Brandon even said at one point, he was like, oh my god, women are superheroes, like, after he was born and everything. And then an hour later is when they try to latch him, like, if you're breastfeeding, which he didn't like latch really well right away, but they were like, maybe he's just not hungry. And then they weighed him, and he was 8 pounds 11 ounces. They measured him, said all that, they did all his tests, and then, you know, everything was good. And I healed really well. I can do a postpartum video if you guys want to hear about that, like postpartum tips, must-haves, and whatnot. I healed fine. I only had to get like 1 stitch, he said. Like, he cut me just like a tiny bit, and he said that I just had like 1 like big stitch, which I'm not really sure what that means, but it wasn't too bad. Like, it was a little bit painful, but it really wasn't bad at all. If I had like any advice for any moms, it's just stay calm. Just, you know, remember that your baby's coming, and you're gonna meet your baby very soon, and it's super exciting. If you're trying to go natural, I would just say, like, stay in the right mindset and try to be as relaxed as you possibly can through the whole thing. Like, and do not lay down. Like, don't lay down at any point, because that's when it killed me. Like, just bounce on your exercise ball, walk around, like, do whatever you gotta do, just don't lay down. But that's basically all I have for you guys today. So if you guys want to see a postpartum video, let me know. I also plan to do a breastfeeding video if you guys want to see that. And then Brandon and I are also planning on doing a Q&A at some point soon, so leave any questions you have down below, or message me on Instagram with any questions you have. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you guys later.